Bom dia a todos, sejam muito bem-vindos ao quarto Seminário Pesquisar China Contemporânea. Meu nome é Mariana Hase Ueta, eu sou uma das organizadoras desse evento que esse ano de 2020 está na sua quarta edição. Então, para começar, eu queria fazer alguns agradecimentos. Primeiramente, agradecer a nossa equipe, ao Nicolas Bains, a Caroline Miranda Brandão, a Paula Constante e a Mariana Barbieri, a Secretaria de Eventos do Instituto de Filosofia e Ciências Humanas da Unicamp, o Ricardo, o Zé Maria, o Valério e o Pedro, que ajudam a gente todo o ano, e principalmente esse ano que a gente fez a transição online. Então, muito obrigada pela ajuda de vocês. Ao Grupo de Estudos Brasil-China da Unicamp, especialmente ao professor Dwyer, que está hoje aqui comigo, e o professor Célio Iratuca. A Casa Unicamp, Centro de Estudos sobre a China, e a Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, principalmente a professora Lin. A Diretoria Executiva de Relações Internacionais da Unicamp, e todos os palestrantes, participantes e mediadores que estão aqui com a gente. Muito obrigada. Esse ano nós tivemos 33 submissões de 33 diferentes instituições brasileiras e estrangeiras e mais de 500 inscrições aqui no evento do mundo inteiro. Então, desde 2017, quando foi a nossa primeira edição, a nossa missão tem sido criar esse espaço de compartilhamento, esse espaço de valorização do trabalho da pesquisa brasileira em direção à China. Então, esse ano, dou boas-vindas a todos vocês e convido vocês a ficarem com a gente nesses próximos 2 dias de eventos. Na parte da manhã, nós teremos a palestra de 2 professoras da Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. A gente teve uma pequena alteração na programação por uma questão de saúde, então hoje nós teremos a palestra da professora Lin Hong, da Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, e amanhã a gente terá, às 9h30 também, a professora Chan Xin. Então, hoje, na parte da tarde, nós teremos sessões de alunos de pós-graduação, de jovens pesquisadores que vêm compartilhar suas pesquisas. Então, às 2 horas, nós vamos ter uma mesa de economia, às 4 horas de meio ambiente, e amanhã, na parte da tarde, a mesma coisa. 2 horas, a mesa sobre ciências humanas, e às 4 horas, sobre relações internacionais. Além disso, hoje também será disponibilizado 3 sessões que nós já gravamos sobre inovação, sobre relações internacionais e sobre aspectos econômicos das relações China e América Latina, que vão estar disponibilizadas nesse mesmo canal. Então, gostaria de dar boas-vindas e convidar o professor Dwyer, que é professor aqui da Unicamp, do Instituto de Filosofia e Ciências Humanas, que é diretor da Casa Unicamp, Centro de Estudos sobre a China, e também é membro do Grupo de Estudo Brasil-China aqui da Unicamp, e a professora Lin Hong. Desejo a todos um ótimo evento.
Bom dia a todos. É meu prazer receber tantas pessoas. Esse seminário está na 4ª edição, e começou com uns 30 pessoas, então de 30 para 500 em 4 anos, realmente algo impressionante. A virtualidade, obviamente, a gente sente a falta da presença física de todo mundo, mas a gente sente uma satisfação muito grande que esse seminário vai englobar um público muito maior do que normal. Tem que lembrar que é um seminário de pós-graduação, de estudantes que estão fazendo mestrados e doutorados, um ou outro que já terminou, sobre a China ou sobre questões relacionadas ao Brasil-China. E todo mundo trilhando um caminho de pesquisador, trilhando o caminho da pesquisa, trilhando o caminho de entender o outro, de conhecer o outro, de comunicar com o outro. É isto, na realidade, o que isto tem a ver com nós, é que isto garante, através do maior conhecimento, a gente consegue construir as condições para que o Brasil e a China se desenvolvem juntos. A China é muito receoso na questão de nunca colocar o nariz nos nossos assuntos internos. E quando a gente faz ciência com a China, já fizemos 5 livros fizemos com a CAS, a Academia Chinesa de Ciências Sociais, cada um respeita o estilo do outro. Então, vocês vão perceber, tanto na conversa da Lin Hong hoje, que é gravado, que a gente tem problema, a gente estava antevendo problemas de tecnologia, e Lin Hong, você vai ver que tem pesquisa de campo bem detalhado, E, normalmente, a sociologia chinesa também tem um lado que a gente chamaria de positivista. Isto garante a autonomia da sociologia na China. Referência aos números, aprender a verdade através dos fatos. Isto é um grande leme de todo sociólogo chinês. Então, o estilo intelectual que a gente vamos ver também na fala da Lin Hong. Lin Hong é professor no Instituto de Sociologia da CAS, o doutorado dela em Antropologia Cultural, da Universidade de Pequim, e ela trabalhou durante 3 anos no OIT, Organização Internacional do Trabalho, em Pequim, pesquisando e concentrando sobre a questão de AIDS, HIV. Ela tem 2 campos que são ao longo prazo, no campo da China, em regiões remotas, que a gente vai começar vendo isto. Uma no província de Jiangsu, que continua até agora. E ela olha, os assuntos de pesquisa dela são grupos étnicos, governança social, sobre questões do meio ambiente e saúde pública. E ela vai falar hoje sobre a questão da luta contra a pobreza. China é responsável por mais que metade da redução da pobreza no mundo. E vamos ver que tem várias maneiras em quais a pobreza foi combatida ao longo do tempo. Alguns são bem velhos na China e outros são novos, e tudo tem características chinesas. Então, eu peço para todos segundo, ela vai falar em inglês, e no final, vocês podem ir lançando perguntas. Desculpa, eu acabei de ver uma mensagem que eu não deveria ter visto. Lançando as perguntas vão ser anotadas, vocês mandam via chat, e no final a gente vai ter uma sessão de perguntas com a professora Lin Hong, a quem eu agora passo a palavra. Lin Hong, now I'm passing the word to you. I've talked about your training and how happy we are to have you here, and how this is a first in our CAS Unicamp cooperation, an online seminar in real time. But I've explained also we did ask you to pre-record everything because we were worried about the technology. So good morning, good evening for you. Yeah.
Good morning there. I'm now in Beijing, and now it's my evening here. And actually, this is also my first time to try this kind of online lecture form. Maybe because of the pandemic, maybe this way will be become the normal way. You know, the social, the society is changing. We need to change ourselves as well. And I want to say it's really my honor to be here together with Tom and Mariana here. And welcome our listeners or participants. I heard Tom told me that we have this time we have more than 500 listeners and participants. So I feel very honored. I want to see we may if you have any questions about the lecture or anything I talk during the lecture, you may raise questions after the lecture, or even you can contact me. We can discuss further. I want to say this is my first time to do this kind of online lecture. And this is also the first time we do this kind of online lecture for CAS and Brazil Center. And I hope this is a start for our future more contacts.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lin Hong. I'm from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. And today it's my honor to be here to share my research and maybe some discussions later. And first, before the lecture, I would like to share a short video that from my fieldwork and maybe can give you a brief image of what I'm going to talk about.
산자생인 참아간 못해 남친의 수대를 본것마라 모든 하이린 슈내게다 남리 물이 목시고 남리 남마은 한글 헛무드루다 남리 남마가 오르샤와네 남리 남마은 한글 헛무드루다 남리 남마가 오르샤와네 어딘 곳에 남들을 가도 도착이 없음 칠들 발라 어린 처마가 쌓이고 쌓는 한글 헛무드루다 남리 남마가 오르샤와네 남리 남마가 한글 헛무드루다 남리 남마가 오르샤와네 남도다 아침 너를 뭉치고보세 가슴에 남아 초대 붙인 사타 내 진스티제 일차라래 남리 남마가 한글 헛무드루다 남리 남마가 오르샤와네 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 남리 남마가 하늘 흩어두다
Hi, this short video shows the brave image of my field, and which this village I'm going to take as an example to talk about the practice and experiences of poverty alleviation in rural area. And that field is not an agricultural village; it's a nomadic village. They are herdsmen, not farmers. But some of them they do farmers and they do farm works. But their living is mainly comes from the livestock. And today, today my topic is the practice and experiences of poverty alleviation in rural area. And then this is going to be into 4 parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about the definition of the poverty. And it's very diverse. So we're going to have a look. And the second part, I'm going to talk about the nation-based actions. It's mainly the perspective of the up-down perspective, mainly based on the national policies. And the third part will be the family-based actions, which is I'm going to take my village as an example. And those people, they are very hardworking people. They work for their better life. And this personal efforts is integrated into the whole national efforts to fight against the poverty. So it's the totally 2 different perspectives. And the fourth part, I'm going to discuss with you some new questions or problems, which maybe include changes of the poverty lines in China, and also the coronavirus pandemic, its effects about China's economics and employment. That may be the discussion part. So we go to the first part, how to define the poverty. Actually, since the United Nations called for the war on poverty in 1990s, the numbers of the extreme poor people in the world is decreased dramatically. And you may say in China, China has contributed a lot to the world poverty alleviation. There's a number from the World Bank, from 6.9 million in 1990 to about 43 million in 2017, a big decrease of 650 million. And the incidence of the poverty dropped to 3.1%. And this is the whole picture from the United database. It shows the decrease about the extreme poor people. And there are 3 ways in academic ways. There are 3 ways to define poverty. The first is the poverty is defined as being below an objective absolute minimum. It's like a kind of an objective goals. And the second is lower than other people in society. It's a kind of comparative perspective. And the third is the poverty is defined as people who feel that they lack enough living needs. And this definition is the combination of the first 1 and the 2 definition, which refers to both objective feeling, objective criteria, and the subjective feelings. And from the definition 1, 4 specific definitions can be derived. And the first one is the basic demand method. This is how to measure the poverty. And the second one is the ratio of food to income. And the third is the ratio of fixed expense to income. And the fourth is the ratio of total expenditure to total income. And the first one, the basic demand method, this one is applied to in many international communities and countries. And from the first definition, there also one definition can be derived from the second one. Is we call here the fifth, the relative shortage of various commodities. And definition 3, this one, is based on social survey, and 2 definitions of poverty can be derived from it. The third and the 6th is the subjective minimum consumption definition, and the 7th, official minimum value. And these 3 definitions are in yellow, you may say in yellow. And the first one, basic demand method, and the 6th one, subject minimum consumption definition, and the 7th, official minimum value. These 3 definitions are better than other definitions in describing poverty, and have been widely referenced by the international community and other countries. The United Nations has another kind of definition of poverty, and it defines poverty as poverty is a denial of choice and opportunity and infringement of human dignity. It means the lack of basic ability to participate in society effectively. It means that a family is unable to eat, clothes, receive education or medical care, have no land to cultivate food or jobs to make a living, and cannot obtain loans. It means that poverty is a kind of negative choice and opportunity. It means a sense of risk, powerlessness, and exclusion faced by individuals, families, and communities. It means vulnerability to violence, and often means living in marginalized or vulnerable environments without access to clean water, resources, or sanitation. This international community defines poverty as a kind of a set of rights discourse. Poverty is a form of deprivation of rights, including various forms of rights, such as the right to survival, development, life, environment, and politics. And the realization of these rights is related to human dignity, social equity, and even global justice. And this, you may say the international community, its definition is a little bit different from the academic definitions. But in practice, there is another one. In practice, the poverty line is the starting point of poverty analysis. And actually, according to the poverty line, there are 2 kinds of poverty lines. One is the relative poverty and the absolute poverty. And relative poverty refers to the position of an individual or family relative to the average income of the country, which is determined by the representative income or consumption level of the whole society. The relative poverty line changes according to the average income. And actually the relative poverty is more like a subjective feelings. So, and it's a bit remains to the definition 3 we mentioned before. And the absolute poverty refers to the position of an individual or family relative to the poverty line with fixed real value and does not change with time. The standard of absolute poverty is determined by the effective purchasing power of a certain amount of basic demand at a specific time point. It is the cost of a package of minimum consumption, which is mainly based on the food demand of calorie intake recommended by the scientific research. And you may say the relative poverty line is changing according to average income change. And the absolute poverty line is not changed. It's fixed because it represents the minimum needs of the calorie intake. So the poverty line reflects the maintenance of the minimum nutrition standards and other necessary income or consumption values. This definition is from sociologist. There is you may say there is a phrase, the so-called other necessary, and other necessary contains strong judgment and cultural indicators, because even within the same country, there may be significant differences between the rural area and the urban area, and the relative food prices are very different. You may buy 10 RMB, you can buy 2 kilos of rice in the urban area, but you don't need to spend 10 yuan to get 2 kilos of rice in urban area. So it's very different. And this also the reason why the poverty lines defines by different regions and or even cities in different countries, and even within the same country are quite different. For example, in China, the poverty line is different from provinces to provinces. At the national level, China has a universe stand line for the poverty, but at a provincial level, different provinces have different province poverty line. Because different provinces has different economic development level. So if you are in a rich province, maybe the poverty line is higher. And if you are you are in a poor province, the poverty line is lower than the rich one, but at least is equal to the national poverty line. So in China, the national poverty line is the basic line. Those provinces poverty line either higher than 8 or equal to 8. And in policy implementation, China draws lessons from the international definitions and we in China we define the poverty line as the standard value of living standard that can meet the minimum needs of a family in terms of food, housing, clothing, and so on. So it's also the minimum standard of living of a family. So there's in China, you may say China started to fight against the poverty in 1980s. In 1986, when China first formulated a poverty line standard based on the survey of 6,000-7,000 rural households' consumption expenditure, and the per capita net income of farmers was 206 RMB as the poverty standard. And in 2010, it was increased to 1,274 RMB. In 1 year later, in 2011, and it was increased to 2,300 RMB. So it's almost double. According to this new standard, there are 60.6 million rural poor people in China by the end of 2018. The poverty incidence rate is dropped to 1.7%. In the process of social development, the connotation of the poverty line has gradually expanded from the initial eating line to the security line to enhance the development rights and the interests of the poor. So as China's development, you may say that according to the change of the poverty line, it's getting closer and closer to the UN's definition of poverty. It's a kind of set of rights and interests of poor people. So we say that it from the eating line change to the security line. And we go to the the second part, we're going to look at the national-based actions to say how China as a big country, how it takes actions to fight against the poverty. They are actually, according to the policy change, China's national actions against poverty can be divided into like 4 stages. You may see here from different each stages. There are some there are specific policies issued there, and the policy means the stage change of the action. See, in the mid-1980s, China began to implement large-scale poverty alleviation and development actions in organized and planned ways. In 1994, the National 8-7 Poverty Alleviation Plan is issued. You may see here from the policy name 8-7. It's not 8-7 here means that in the last 7 years of the 20th century, taking national efforts to solve the problem of food and clothing for 80 million rural people in China. So here the 8 is represent the 80 million rural poor people. And the 7 means the time limitation within 7 years of the last 20th century. And in 2001, and the outline of poverty alleviation and development in rural China from the year 2001 to 2010, then this policy is issued. Which emphasize the economic and market-oriented development. For example, let's just say at the first stage, the poverty, the national actions mainly focusing on the administrative efforts to fight against the poverty. But that second stage started in 2001. More elements like economic and market market elements are integrated into the the poverty alleviation. And in 2011, the outline of poverty alleviation and development in rural China, 2011 to 2020, and this document, this policy is issued, and 2010, this year is the last year of this policy's implementation. And this, according to this policy, it's the national goal is to realize the poverty alleviation objects without worrying about food and clothing, and guarantee their compulsory education, basic medical care, and housing, which is called 2 no worries and 3 guarantees. This is direct translation from the Chinese. And in China, we have a habit to shorten a long policy phrases into a short, which is easy to remember and to talk about to the people. So now, then this year is the last year to fight for the goal, which is the 2 no worries and 3 guarantees. And you may say from the mid 1980s until now, the poverty alleviation policies have implemented from 18 poverty areas to 592 poverty counties, and then to 148,200 poverty villages. The poverty targeting mechanism in practice has further enriched and refined China's poverty alleviation picture. So how that means the poverty targeting mechanism is the basis for those national policies in implementation. So next we are going to look at the poverty targeting mechanism. Poverty targeting mechanism can be divided into 3 levels. The first level is based on the poverty counties. Since China began to carry out poverty alleviation intervention in organized and planned ways in 1986, poverty counties as an action unit has been running through the whole process of China's poverty alleviation. The preferential policies attached to the status of poverty counties can be roughly divided into 3 categories. The first is the preferential policies for allocation of national special poverty alleviation funds. And the second one is the preferential policies for transportation, water conservation, finance, science and technology, education, population, health, cultural, and tourism, and other industrial granted by the state to poor areas, such as preferential tax policies for industrial investment promotion and preferential land policies. And the third is the national fiscal transfer payment policy. Poor counties can get great number of support in national transfer payment, including personnel, wages, tax reliefs, and preferential subsidies for key industrial projects. So we call the poverty. If a county if a county in China is identified as a poverty county, it's going to get these three categories of preferential policy support for its development. So it's a big benefit. And the second level of poverty targeting mechanism is based on poor village. Around the year of 2000, the distribution of poverty population in China has gradually changed from area to dot, in which it means that in the first stage, those poor people, most of them live in a big area, and into the second stage, after the 2000, according to the survey, we found that poor people, they don't live in a big area anymore. They live in different villages. It's like a village dot. So we call it the distribution of the poverty people has changed from the area to a dot, resulting the effectiveness of the county-based poverty targeting mechanism gradually reduced. So it's in the new stage, the new national policy issued. Also, the poverty targeting mechanism is changed from the county to the village. By 2002, China has identified 148,000 poverty villages, accounting for 21.4% of the total number of the administrative villages in our country. These villages were distributed in 1,861 counties, accounting for 68.8% of the total number of the county units in the country. And the poverty population covered accounting for 83% of the total number of poverty people in China. In comparison, the targeting mode of counties can only cover 61% of the poor people. So you may say from the coverage of the targeting mechanism, the poor village targeting mechanism is much better than the poor county mechanism. Therefore, the county level target is adjusted to the village level target since 2002. So as to adapt to the phase characteristics of China's poverty situations. So the development situation is changing, and so our national policy changed, and the poverty targeting mechanism changed. So the third level of poverty targeting mechanism is to take the poor household as the unit, which is very different from the county and the village level targeting. It's much more precise, and is focusing more on the family and the individual subjectivity. The targeting of poor households emphasizes the specificity of families and individuals, and the poverty alleviation measures emphasizes the implementation of specific families and people. In 2013, China put forward the concept of targeted poverty alleviation. This is for the first time in China that we proposed this concept, and then refined this concept into 6 precisions. That is accurate support objects and precise project management, accurate use of funds, precise measures to households, accurate personnel assigned to villages, and accurate results of poverty alleviation. and these six measures refers to different subjects. For example, the accurate support objects means those poverty alleviation projects need to focus on specific poor family and poor individuals. So this is the much more precise targeting. And the precise project management is refers to those those financial funded poverty projects. And so it refers those six precise sessions. These six measures refers to different subjects, especially and it's a kind of duty distribution among different government departments. For example, for the poor people with labor capacity, for the poor people with labor with labor capacity, but they are poor. Poverty alleviation focuses on empowerment to enhance their ability of self-development. And for the people who lose their ability to work, social security and different kinds of social protection will provided to them to realize the bottom, to guarantee the bottom assistance. And the financial poverty alleviation funds are initially focused on infrastructure construction. It's mainly flow to the government department and also the entrepreneur or the market department. And also has been extended to poor households. So in this, you may say there's like a 4 stage changes of China's national actions. In mid-1980s, China began to implement large-scale poverty alleviation and development actions in organized and planned ways. And that's at the beginning of the national action is the poverty targeting mechanism is based on poverty area, and in 1994, when the national A7 poverty alleviation plan issued, the poverty targeting mechanism is changed to the poverty counties, and in 2001, when the outline of the poverty alleviation and development in rural area 2001 to 2010, when this document issued, the poverty targeting mechanism is changed to poverty villages. And in 2011, when the new document issued, the poverty targeting mechanism is changed to poverty households. And so from you may say the whole process of the national actions taken by China, and there's a according to following different national policies, there are different poverty targeting mechanism to support the policies in implementation in practice. So this part we are together to go through the whole up-down perspective of the China's national actions. Next, we're going to have a quick look at the family-based action. You may, as I mentioned previously, the latest stage of the national action is based, the targeting poverty targeting mechanism is based on poor family, poor households. So this part, we're going to see how it works. And since China launched a large-scale poverty alleviation and the poverty reduction campaign with guidance of national policies, all localities have explored local poverty alleviation programs based on differentiated resources and endowment, and formed an interactive channel of policy implementation at the levels of province, city, county, town, village, and family. You may see this channel is equal to China's administrative system settings. So here we are going to take one rural family as an example. We call Wang. This is the father of this family. Siding village. Siding is the name of the village. Siding village is one of the 6,220 poverty villages in Gansu province. Gansu province, you know, China has more than 30 provinces. It's very big, and different provinces are very different from each other. And Gansu province is a comparative poor province in China. It's a traditional siding village. It belongs to Gansu province, and it's a traditional stock farming village relying on natural grassland with 121 households and 348 people in total. All of them are ethnic minority households, mainly we call Uyghur people and Tibetan people. And in 2017, the village's per capita net income was 11,827 RMB. This is the annual per capita net income. And you may have a do you remember the video images I you say before the lecture? It's taken from this village about 10 years ago. In the short video, those pictures were taken about 10 years ago when I was there to do my field work. And after the 13 more than 1 year field work, I come back to the village almost every year and to do other research projects. And you may say, this village, this is the summer grassland. Summer grassland in that village, in that area, those herdsmen they move they move their home each season. They have a summer grassland, autumn grassland, and winter grassland. And winter grassland is the longest. They spend almost half a year time at their winter grassland, and this is the summer grassland. It's you may see it's a very high huge mountains. It's a mountainous area, and these two pictures are also taken in about 10 years ago. And 10 years ago there, the transportation vehicles is relies on motorcycles, and at that time 10 years ago, motorcycles are their main transportation vehicles, and those bricks houses, and those houses now if you go back to the village, those houses they are still have people living there. but the transportation ways has changed a lot. Now almost every household has a small car, so it has changed a lot. And this picture is taken in 2007 when I went back to there to do the poverty alleviation research there. And this you may see the red roof house. This is also the summer grassland of a family. This house is very new. 10 years ago, there was no this kind of houses, and now everywhere there are this kind of houses. It's they call it color steel houses. And this is the this picture also taken last was taken last year. It's winter. It's a winter grassland, and those here in the valley is the settlement of the herdsmen. In their settlement, and they live there. They spend more than half a year time there here. And there's another grassland of the village. You may see here. Then this picture was taken last year. You may see those houses are very new and looks much more beautiful. And here, this is one house, and they have bricks house and also color steel house. And this family has 2 cars. So it's much different from 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they relied a lot on the motorcycle to do the transportation, and now about almost every household has a small car. And this is a brief time cycle of local people's living life style. Different time they do different things. So this is a very typical nomadic lifestyle and production style in China. This is the living there. This picture, you may give a brief image of this village, of their lives and their productions. They are in summertime. It's time to do the sheep sharing, and they are selling wolves and wolves. And this family, they are selling lambs. And in that village, wolves and the lambs are the main economic sources of the family. In 2014, Siding Village began to implement the 1+14+7 targeted poverty alleviation measures. One refers to an overall plan for targeted poverty alleviation. And this plan is formulated together by local officials and from different levels. For example, the village, the town, and the county. Different officials get together and discuss with the poverty targeted households and to formulate the poverty alleviation plan for specific family. So this is it's a kind of overall plan for the family. And the 14 means 14 projects support around the 5 aspects of infrastructure, industrial cultivation, public service guarantee, village environment improvement, and capacity empowerment. And this 14 projects support means in each year, there are 14 different kinds of poverty alleviation projects are implemented in the village to improve the overall infrastructure situation of the village. This kind of projects is benefit the whole villages, not only the targeted poverty households. The 7 refers to the poverty alleviation plan for 7 households based on the village and household survey. The village working team helping the poor families discuss and formulated the poverty alleviation plan together with the poor households. The family defines the plan will define the objectives, tasks, and measures, and further identify the problems of who to help, whom to help, who to help, and how to help. So the 7 means they are in this village, in Siding village, and there are 7 identified targeted poverty family. So 1, we mentioned previously, one's family is one of the 7 poor families in Siding village. And by the end of 2017, the last 2 poor households were lifted out of the poverty, and Siding realized the poverty alleviation of the whole village. The last 2 families who got out of the poverty were all suffering from serious disease, and the time cycle of the treatment and family economic recovery was relatively longer. One's family is one of the last 2 households. And this was from Mr. Wang. Wang said, "My family is impoverished by illness. My wife found out malignant lymphoma in 2010, and chemotherapy lasted for 5.5 years until 2016. She couldn't get chemotherapy again and began to take conservative treatment, mainly using some local methods to control the disease from worsening. My family has a small grassland, few sheep, and a small income from livestock. I have been trying hard to increase my income." And this Mr. Wang, this man is also like a kind of a thinker. He tried a lot to increase his family's income for a better life, and also he thinks about the poverty issues. He said the poverty caused by illness is a real problem. Nothing else can be said to be a real problem of poverty. This in 2011 and 2012 and 2013, individual paid little money for cooperative medical care, so the proportion of reimbursement was very low, and there was no other reimbursement way. In 2015, the individual payment of the cooperative medical system was higher, and the preferential policy of precisely supporting the poor. The reimbursement for medical treatment increased to 60 to 70%. The cost of seeing a doctor is very high. My wife cannot do chemotherapy here. can only do radiotherapy, we have to go to the province capital city, Lanzhou. In those years, we went to Lanzhou more than 10 times a year. From last year to this year, conservative treatment was adopted by conservative treatment cannot get reimbursement from the National Program of Cooperative Medical Care. Over the past few years, my family has spent more than 400,000 RMB on medical treatment alone, including reimbursement for serious illness relief, cooperative medical insurance, and some subsidies for poverty alleviation. Those are national government support programs. The total amount of reimbursement is about 50%, which is around 200,000 RMB. The rest of the money is taken by ourselves, mainly from our previously savings and loans. So it's and by the end of 2017, one's family is left out of the restriction of poverty household, and at that time, his family's income is going higher than before, and but you know, in China, those farmers, including herdsmen, they don't calculate their income or expenditure precisely. So in the process of the poverty alleviation, there are a lot of officials. They live in villages and help those families to do the family plans and also do the calculating works to help them to understand their family's economic status. And we are going to, you know, Chinese people is maybe they are very hardworking, and those could be, especially in one's family, it's he's the father. And he's the first generation in this family, and he remembered when he was very young, his life is very hard. He said it was hard at home when I was young, at a pastoral area at that time. People lived in wooden houses in summer and stone houses in winter. Our village got electricity in 1989, and later, every household was connected to it. In 1989, we rebuilt 5 brick houses. Now the house is still living. In 2010, our family bought a house in the county. And it's a house in a very tall building in the county. From his memory, you may say one's memory, you may say the brave life change of Chinese farmer, and there how it changed a lot. And for the first generation of the family, they spend their most time in the village. They sometimes, and now when the transportation is available, they can go out to the county or to the city or even to the province and the province capital city. But general speaking, most of the first generation people in that village, they haven't even get out of the village. They spend most of their lifetime in the village. But for the second generation of the family, they are very different from the first generation. They move a lot. They have much more chances to employment. And this, for example, this is the eldest daughter of this family, Wang's daughter. She said, I was born in 1984 and went to school in 1991. After I graduated from junior high school, I herded sheep at home. Later, I became an official in the town. I married in 2006 and gave birth to a child and stayed at home then. In 2010, I began to work in the city selling jade for 3 years and now selling clothes. And also, Wang has 2 sons. His 2 sons even move a lot than their sister. They have more chances for education, for employment, and they move a lot. So the second generation is very different from the first generation. This mainly because the big change of the China's development. And compared with the first generation of the family, the second generation is gradually away from the production and the life of herding and has more options. From Wang to his daughter and sons, and even the third generation still in school. The intergenerational differences among the 3 generations of a family have largely concentrated the process of the national, social, and village development and confirm the observation of a village Cardi. Now, this is the village Cardi said. Now, the youngest people who are still herding are the people born after 1980. And the younger people will not herd anymore. There are not many people left in the village, and a few people are still herding. For young people, the ban of herding does not really have much impact on their lives. They are making living out of the grassland, and can still get some of subsidy of grassland protection. But for the older generation, old herdsmen have been herding for generations. They have no other living skills, cannot farm land or do anything else. Their livelihood is a big problem. More investment of social protection is needed. And you may see Wang's family as a targeted poverty household. From 2015 to 2017, his family received various assistance resources, including the 7. The first, a temporary civil aid of 3,000 RMB used to improve living conditions, and the second, 12,800 RMB of subsidy for improving living conditions, and 37 also to help develop family industries. 28 square meters color steel house for improving living conditions, and targeted poverty alleviation discount loan of 50,000 RMB, and the grassland subsidy of 11,500 RMB, and a rural minimum living standard subsidy of 6,100 RMB per year. And so the poverty alleviation resources not only benefit the poor family, but also benefit the whole village. And this in a survey in 1917, 37 of the 461 households in the survey indicated that they had directly enjoyed the poverty alleviation policy, including housing subsidy in the settlement, building roads in the village, improving village power grid, improving living environment, public library, and all kinds of personnel trainings. So based on the years of efforts to fight against poverty, China has lifted more than 700 million rural poverty people out of poverty. And it's the first country in the world to complete the UN Millennium Development Goals. And the path of poverty reduction with Chinese characteristics mainly included 4 aspects. This is my summary here. And first is the concept construction of poverty cognition. And you may say in the first part we discussed how to define the poverty. China's definition of poverty has integrated experiences of international community and also the academic perspectives. And the second, the system construction based on poverty alleviation policy that refers to the 4 stages of national policy and its poverty targeting mechanism changes. And this is many from refers to the perspective of up-down perspective. And the third is the construction of action characterized by local practice. And this include those very diverse practice of poverty alleviation in China. You know, China is very big, different, and that means different provinces, they have different different practice patterns of poverty alleviation. So because different provinces, they have very different nature endowment and resources, and including economic, political, and social and cultural differences. So based on the national guidance, different provinces, even different cities, they have very different practice of poverty alleviation. And the fourth is the great personal efforts of Chinese people for a better life. You know, in recent 40 years, Chinese people, generations, they have been working hard to improve their families' situation. They have a very pure dream, is for a better life. And fourth part, we are going to have some discussions, and these discussions may be some new characteristics or phenomena appeared in China now, but we are still going to take time to do some research or watch it go. What will go to, where it will go to, or how it go. And the first thing I want to discuss with you is I want to say, in my previous presentation, you may say China's fight against the poverty has achieved a lot, but you may but we still have a long way to go, because following the change of the poverty line standard, for a better life in different time, we have different definition of better life. So now in China, for China, We are going to meet the national goal of eliminating extreme poverty by this year. Yes, according to those data and our investigations and surveys, we are going to achieve this national goal to eliminate extreme poverty by this year. But the poverty rate for people that you may see here, I mean this extreme poverty line, according to the UN's definition, especially the World Bank, the extreme poverty line is $1.9 a day. Is the purchasing power per day. And China is going to eliminate the extreme poverty by this year. But the poverty rate for people living on less than 5.5 per day is projected to decline from 18.7% in 2018 to 11.9% in 2021. It means we still have a lot of a big amount of poverty people who are living on less than $5.5 per day. So you may say, following the change and following the poverty line going higher, China still has a long way to go. And the second issue I want to share with you or discuss with you is the employment issues, especially this year. And we all know the pandemic has a big effect on China's employment, and so this year, we are going to achieve the national goal to eliminate the extreme poverty, but we are heavily affected by the pandemic. So based on the poverty alleviation goals, this year China has put forward 6 guarantees because based on the evaluation of the pandemic effects. And the first is to ensure the employment residents. You may say the first one is the employment. So, and the second one is to ensure the basic livelihood. The third one is to ensure the market main body, because the pandemic, a lot of small factories are got down or failed. So they locked down. They don't have businesses. And the fourth is to ensure the food and energy security. And the fifth is to ensure the stability of the industrial supply chain. And the sixth is to ensure the grassroots operation. So these 6 guarantees are put forward by China to adapt to the pandemic effects. And you may also see in this year, just after the pandemic, they open when China reopened after the pandemic control. There's a very hot phenomenon called street store economy or night economy. It also some scholars also call it flexible employment. And there's another term is very popular now, especially this year, is the gig economy, which is very popular in US about 10 years ago. Now it's very popular in China. And the essential this phenomenon I put together because they seem that they are very similar to each other. It's a kind of a way to provide an opportunity for low-income people to earn their lives through their own efforts. You may see these pictures are very now. If you go to different provinces, they are different night economies. We call night markets there, and very stylized. And in different area, we have very different type of night markets. Very interesting. You can sell clothes, foods, and other small commodities. And you may see here, this is the night economy, night market, and this one is the mobile seller. And this one is another city. This one, you may see, very different. Well, the goods are very diverse, and the forms are very diverse too. You may say this kind of street store economy in daytime or in nighttime. And those sellers, they move a lot. They are migrant. And last thing I want to share is the not only the night economy or the strike store economy, there are other emerging forms of employment are emerging in China. First is well known is the express rider here, the express rider, and the internet marketer, this one you may see. And also this one, Li Ziqi, she is very popular internationally. In YouTube, I think you may have a look. And also live webcast. This one, live webcast, and this lady is doing live webcast. And also esports practitioners, and this one, esports. And also DD driver. DD driver is very similar to Uber. And also online knowledge payment. You may see this picture is a teacher, a famous teacher based in Beijing. He's providing classes and lectures to those students nationwide, and also some training classes is provided online too. And now in China, there are a lot of platforms you can find different categories of knowledge. You just pay it and you can get it. It's very hot now. So that's my lecture. Thank you for coming, and I can't see you, but if you have any questions, we may discuss. Or if you are interested in those things I talked, you can contact me by email, or just in the discussion. We can discuss in the next part, the discussion part. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lin Hong, for a very enlightening speech. I really enjoyed the way that you brought the micro and the macro together. I mean, you have this one family in Jiangsu province, and they're very poor, and then you see how along China's history the family changes, but they still remain poor. And then we see a factor coming in like ecological destruction, which means that the herdsman can no longer be herdsman because it destroys the grasslands and things. And so the government thinks of poverty relief for this. But then in China, you have a very strong work ethic. So the herdsman, he's not going to want to stop working because that's all he knows to do and what he does. So it becomes quite a problem. I mean, if you banned herding, how do the herdsmen end their life? Not to earn money, but to maintain their identity as herdsmen and as hard workers. So that was one observation. I myself went to, in southern China in 2012 and 2014, 2 times to Guizhou province, which is a very poor province. And it was on holidays, and I didn't go with anyone from CAS or from the university. It was me and my wife and some friends. And we went around the same places, 2 years difference. And I was so shocked at how fast rural poverty relief efforts had come in. And what I saw was, I love going to marketplaces in China, you know, where people buy and sell chickens, or Guizhou has many Miao people, so you get lots of jewelry and lots of beautiful cloth, like we saw with your, I think there were Mongolians in the beginning that you show people of Uyghur, yeah, and so these things all get traded in the marketplace, and you could see even in those 2 years how the market had become much richer, and the offer of goods had changed. It was just amazing, and to think that this happened in 2 years. And why did I go to Guizhou province? I wanted to go to Guizhou province to see, you know, how poor rural China. That was what I went as a sociologist for. And it's a very beautiful province too. I didn't know so much about that. But so I'm very interested to learn about all of the policy moves that were put in place, from the macro right down to a targeting of the families that you explained, and the idea of keeping people useful, keeping people feeling themselves useful in the community. So I would thank you for a very fine speech. I was, again, very interested by your photographic registers, the beauty of the food. It was poor, but it was dignified. You could see, you know, the photo you had of the motorbike. And I think in the back there was like solar power there in the back. You had 2 photos, a motorbike, and then you had a building in the back, and it had looked like glass on the roof. So solar power in rural China. That I remember seeing in Inner Mongolia, in Nemongwo, in 2008. Everywhere I would go, there were small villages, and all of them had solar power, and all of them, they had rebuilt the houses. So, you know, again, that's small. And Nemongwo was very interesting because of reforestation. They were planting forests everywhere. So, you know, these extraordinary changes in China, it's so hard to think of. And the image that we normally have in Brazil, of course, and in Brazilian sociology, is based on the urban areas. And what we see is profound changes arriving in the rural areas, and especially more opportunities being opened up. I have, just for a start, 3 questions. I will make them firstly in Portuguese, and then one by one, firstly in Portuguese and then in English, ok? Eu tenho 3 perguntas do público. Eu agradeci Lin Hong pela esplêndida apresentação, onde ela liga o micro e o macro. É onde a gente vê como a política vai se refinando e chega até as famílias no final. Você pensa, famílias pensado como família, unidade individual, quase. Isto é impressionante. Nossas políticas públicas são muito mais universalistas. Eles vão ser precisos e sempre olhando as condições em cada lugar. Eu tenho 3 perguntas que vou fazer primeiro em português, por em português e depois em inglês. A Mariana Hase, que é da Federal de Pernambuco, falou das políticas do NPC de 2020, teve um ênfase no estratégia 6+6 para o desenvolvimento. Se ela pensa que a gestão da crise de Covid-19 vai ter um impacto sobre essa abordagem, caso houver, quais mudanças podem ajudar essa estratégia a manter os objetivos. Está aqui em inglês. That's here in English for you, if you can understand. If you don't, we ask, yeah? So, Lin Hong, I read the second one. If you can, this is your first question here, yeah? So I say the second question in Portuguese, and we come back to the answers. Vivian Vela, da UNB, ela fez uma questão sobre os programas de alívio de pobreza nos grandes centros urbanos, e ela fez isso cedo na apresentação, e as perguntas foram sendo respondidas sobre como que os critérios para as famílias receber ajuda. One professor from Brasilia, she made a question, but it was about the criteria whereby people would get their the help from the government. But as you went on during your speech, you were talking about the criteria, so she's quite happy you answered her question. And then Diego Amorim, estudante da Unicamp, ele observou que o crescimento da renda no campo gera um aumento de consumo e, como consequência, problemas ambientais. Se existem políticas específicas para aumentar a renda das pessoas e reduzir o impacto sobre o meio ambiente. Então, vamos começar com essas duas perguntas. So, Lin Hong, you might want to make some comment on what I said, just an observation, and then we have these 2 questions for you to answer. Okay? You need to put your microphone.
Sorry.
Your microphone. No, that's okay.
About the first question is about the COVID-19 crisis impact on the national goal of the poverty alleviation. Surely the pandemic has a big influence on the achievement of the national goal, especially, in China, almost all government departments are working very hard we want to achieve the national goal we called to no worries and to no worries and 3 guarantees that goal by the end of this year, because by the end of this year there's another national kind of evaluation of the to see if we have achieved the goal. And if not, so I think there are many different kinds of punishments or other measures. And there are a lot of up-down pressure for different levels of officials, especially. And it has a lot of influence on that, the pandemic. But this year, to get very related to the pandemic, we have new the central government issued the policy called six stabilities and six guarantees. Six guarantees I have mentioned in my PPTs, and six stabilities are very related to the six guarantees. And this special policy is issued this year, just after in late March, and it's the implementation nationwide happened at the beginning of at the beginning of the April. So you can see it's just this new policy just come out after the after China has control the pandemic. So the different governments, departments, they are fighting for this six stabilities and six guarantees. For example, the six stabilities. The first one is employment. To stabilize the employment and to guarantee the employment. So to solve the problem, not only related, and it's not the job of the Ministry of Labor and Human Resources. It's also related to education, the Ministry of Education. For example, because of the pandemic, every year we have a huge number of university graduates. So this work also a big pressure for the education department. And because of the pandemic, another group is very vulnerable. We call migrant workers in China. Those migrant workers, they have land resources in rural area, but they usually they will get into the urban area to find a job, and when they need, especially in the harvest time, they will go back to the rural area. So and this pandemic has a big influence to this group too. So graduate students and migrant workers are the key groups for the stabilization of employment. And also there are these two are key groups, and because they are most vulnerable. And the influence, we already have a national evaluation about the different level of the influence to different groups. So our policy is very targeted to different groups. So different departments, different groups have different support policy. For example, for the enterprise and for the market department, now this year a series of financial policy has issued to support the small and medium-sized enterprises to get to get a discount loans from the banks. This is related to guarantee the market body. The small and medium-sized enterprises are the key groups. It's very so. This just for example. This new policy issued this year is it is because the pandemic, it want to mitigate the bad influence of the pandemic. And now we can, and the policy is still in the process of the implementation. So if we want to see if the policy is effective or effective enough, maybe in October or later in November, we will do the national evaluation. And now different sectors, they are doing a small scale evaluation too, to say if it's effective. And for the residents this sector, there are other like social protections programs. We have very different social protection programs in China. There's in China has realized the social and the goal of social protection floor means everyone in China, every Chinese people, no matter you are in rural area or urban area, you can get a universal medical health insurance and pension means if you are older, if you are over 60, male Chinese, if you are over 60 years old, you started to get the pension every month. And if the female Chinese, you will start to get the pension at 55, and for the medical care insurance, it's medical care and the pension is universal. Is basic, but the money is very low. It's just like the basic protection. So we call it social protection floor. And above this social protection floor, and targeting different groups, we have a different civil programs. For example, in urban area, we have a Dbao system. Dbao is in Chinese means minimum living standard protection. It's also different from provinces to provinces, because the money for this system, for Dbao system, apart from the central government, it's the fiscal transfer payment, and apart from local government. So if you are in a rich province, the Dbao you can get higher, and so we have a Dbao system for rural urban area, and this year called the Dbao, the payment for the Dbao system is the most is also part of the 6th guarantee policy. So other, if it means if the government has other want to use money to do other things, there's no permission. To protect to pay for the Dbao system and the social protection is the priority for the national payment and this year. So this is also part of the 6th guarantee. And also have other social protections policies. And in rural area, there is another, but similar to the urban area, but they belongs to different government department. Now China is trying. Now we are trying to put these two together. So after the pandemic, in the implementation of the 6 stabilities and 6 guarantee, this social protection programs has very big support, are very supportive to those to Chinese people, especially vulnerable peoples. Yes, so we're still in the process of the policy implementation. So to the third question is about the about the balance, how to balance the economic income, the increase of Chinese people's income, and the environmental to mitigate environment impact. Yes, it's as you know, the Chinese people, they for example in Beijing, air pollution is very worrying. Now actually China has different China has we have a lot of actions at different levels. The first one, especially in recent 10 years, there are a lot of national policies and regulation laws, and also national large-scale actions, and to protect the environment and in ecological system. For example, the most important thing is the first thing. We call it the review on the ecological resources. It's a kind of evaluation indicators for different levels officials. If you are in a position, and during your position, if there are any damage or losses of ecological resources, then you will be punished. You will be punished when you leave. So it's like a very heavy restraints to different levels officials, and China also we have finished the identification of the key ecological area, and also the ecological red line. These two policies are very important. For example, what means key ecological area? For Tom, you mentioned you have been to Guizhou. Guizhou is one of the ecological province in China, because for example, if a province is identified as an ecological province, then the evaluation indicators will be different from other provinces. And also some provinces in very vulnerable places. For example, also province. And
We lost you. Yeah. We just lost you a bit there, just the last half minute or something. We just lost your sound. Lin Hong. Oh, she's frozen. Hello. Hi. We're just having a little bit of problem with bandwidth right now. Yeah. Okay.
Where shall I start?
Tom, você está com o microfone fechado.
You were talking about the ecological provinces and how the targeting for an ecological province was designated and was quite different to the others, and then your voice disappeared.
Yeah, okay. I will start here.
Okay.
The ecological provinces. If a province is identified as an ecological province, then the evaluation, the official evaluation indicators system will be very different from other provinces. And the ecological provinces are located in ecological vulnerable areas. So it's kind of it's part of the key ecological area policy. And we also have Yangtze River and Yellow River. They are also along the river. It's a belt. It's the ecological belt. So there another it's another kind of policies. So it's also part of the key area protection policy protection. And so we have key are protection policy, and we also have ecological red line. Ecological red line are related to agricultural red line. And also this policy is also implemented. Ecological right line not only implemented in area or in province, it's also implemented in national parks and also even in county. And just in my field, the village I take as an example in my PPTs. That village is inside a national park, and the national park is using another kind of ecological protection policy. So, but the red line policy also fitted to that area, which means if an area is identified as an ecological vulnerable place, then this area you may not can you cannot do any build constructions or even human activities. So this also part of ecological right line policy, and this is the national policy level. We have very different national policies, and we also have a national large scale actions to if the policy is to control the situations worsening, then we have different several national actions to do plantings in the northwest area, and also this we call it ecological projects. And we have several national ecological projects implemented. As I know, some projects has lasted for more than 40 years. You know, in Mongolia, there's we call it ecological forest. Yeah, that is a long belt to prevent the sand and the wind, and that belt is in building. Is always in the process of building. Every year, many money and the people a lot of investment to do that kind of that. And as I know, there are also like a sea line. There are also ecological projects along the sea line. But I don't know very clearly how it implement this national large-scale actions. And we also have recent years. We also have a lot of we call it social actions. Different. You know, we every March we have the planting festival. It's not just a festival. It's like a working festival for all Chinese people. We especially in schools and some social organizations, people are organized on that day or around that day. People are organized to go out to planting trees, and even I have some friends. They live in Shanghai and Beijing. Every year in March, they were organized. They self-organized as a huge group, and they go to Inner Mongolia to planting trees. And there are a lot of social organizations are doing this kind of work to organize people to do plantings. And and also there now China is very hard working on the waste management. It's this process is very hard and very hard. We are still working on that. This is the third question.
Thanks. We have your very detailed replies, and one thing that most people in Brazil don't really appreciate is how extraordinarily detailed public policy is in China. It targets each place in terms of its individual features of what its assets are and what its problems are, whereas we have a more universalistic approach in Brazil. And so this is something we can learn of course, because Brazil is a huge country like China is, but with a lot less population. We have at least 4 more questions, but one you've just started answering was about how development policy has been affecting Western China. One other was from Diego Amorim about the phenomenon of migrant workers and its impact on social and family transformation in the countryside. You almost mentioned this a little bit. Here is this question. And let me see. The Janaina Nolasco asked something that I think all of us thought is, how can you do public policy for nomadic people? It's hard for nomadic people's children to go to school. It must be hard for them to get health care. I think you started answering that in some way already in your presentation. Flavio Oliveira asked about Western China, which you've started replying. And you yourself are from Chongqing, right? Which is Western China as well, I think. So you're a product of maybe the development of Western China. And Mariana Yanti from Recife, which is about 3,000 kilometers from where we are now in São Paulo, asks about, do you think the policy of poverty relief will become more centralized or less centralized, or is the relation with policy development and central government and local government, is it something quite flexible which changes over time and changes with the problems to be confronted? So there's a lot of questions to pick from. We're almost going to finish our time soon, but you just... I hope you've understood them. Yeah.
Okay. The central government is going to a more centralized and more cyclic. Towards more centrally. Okay, I will start from the question. Do you think that central government is going towards a more centralized strategy, or it's a cyclic? Actually, how to see? In China, I have discussed we our colleagues inside. We have a lot of discuss about the role of the central government and the lower levels governments. You know, in China, central government's this policy, especially every 5 years national plan, it's very principle, those policy from the central government, which means that the those central government's policy will go to the go to the province level. Province level has the legal authority to make it detailed based on the local situations. So we see it seems that we have a centralized strategy for the poverty alleviation from the central government, but actually the provinces played a very important very important role in practice. Those central government policy or strategy just provide guidance or the baseline, and to give local provinces a kind of directions. For example, back to the poverty line issues. In China, at the national level, the central government gives out the poverty line. Is now we still use the poverty line, which raised in 2011, and it's 2,700 yuan. But in provinces, in the different provinces, they can their poverty line can higher than the national line. For example, in Gansu province, in that village I mentioned in my PPT, in that village, the poverty line is 3,320 RMB. And so you see, Gansu is very, and so it's a from the you see the strategy is very centralized from the central government, but the implementation is very diverse. I see. Okay. I move to another the other question is about the migrant workers. Migrant workers, we have it's a key group in China. It's very a lot of policy are related to this group. And for those nomadic people, they migrate from winter grassland to summer grassland, but they have they almost but they spend almost half a year at the winter grassland. So usually winter grassland is the fixed village sites. So they are also integrated into the into the local management. So they are also in the social protection programs, and they are similar, and they are the same. They are the same as other farmers in other rural area. So they are no different. Can video. And there is also a question asked about the 5-year plans on the development of the Western area regarding the social protection structures impact. And the 5-year plans are universal. It's the national at the national level. So the social protection floor are also universal. Great overview the impact social family transformation that this phenomenon has seen the last question is about the family transformation. The family transformation is happening in both rural area and the urban area, but they are in different. Generally speaking, they are in different stages. They're in different stages of the family transformation. For example, in rural area, in the field, in my village, in that village, the transformation, the family transformation is very significant between different generations. Different generations, they have a very different experience, life experience, and living skills. Their lifestyle and protection pattern are very different. But in the urban area, especially in big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou, and also Shenzhen, these kind of big cities in China, and the family transformation is not focused, and the livelihood is the living pattern is not the key of the transformation. It's in my observation, meaning there are more and more family. The family size are very smaller, or even a lot of and many people, they choose many family, they don't want to have child, and they call a dink. And also and there are more and more people, we call them one person, one family. It's very different, it's very different from the rural area. And more and more people, they they don't couples, they don't want children, and all the many young people, especially girls, they are thinking, if I need a marriage, but in rural area, marriage is necessary. It's also the traditional way. So the family transformation are very different between the rural area and the urban area, very different. So I call it they are at different stages of the family transformation. Okay, do I miss some questions?
No, I think you've done a very good job, and you've been asked so many different questions. This, in some way, highlights our lack of knowledge about China, some of the questions. And this is why we have the CAS Unicamp Center, which is for the study of China. This is a national resource for all of Brazil. And we hope that the people listening will think about that. And Lin Hong, you are this is a great privilege to have you with us this morning for us, and now getting probably past your bedtime in China. It's now 11 o'clock at night. And so thank you very much for a very thoughtful presentation, one that, linked together micro and macro processes, as I said, and how people's lives have been changing a long time. One of the questions, of course, that has made Chinese sociology so important is it has been a co-thinker of the development process. It's been always analyzing, as you mentioned, what has happened in different places. This is fed into the decision-making process, and it's also fed into the training of officials. And then there is evaluation that is very constant in your system. So you mentioned the meritocracy, if people do a bad job, well, then they don't keep moving up. You mentioned they get punished, or they probably just stop their movement. So this is very nice to hear for our students to be able to hear all of these intricacies of how the Chinese system works. So thank you very much once again. And of course, bringing together sociology and anthropology is something that's very popular in Brazil, and especially with our young students. And I thought you did that very well. There was lots of sociology and figures and positivism in some way, and then the touches you had of your people and their lifestyles and things was very precious for many of us. So on behalf of the organizers, on behalf of the group for the Brazil-China studies that we also have in the university, thank you very much. Just remind everybody else. I just remind everybody else the sessions start again at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and then 4 o'clock, and then from 6 o'clock onwards there will be we try and make a virtual space for people to meet and talk to each other. It'll be in a different environment. So thank you once again, Lin Hong.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Mariana, and it's really my pleasure.
And next time in Brazil, you come here.
Yeah, surely. You also can come to China, come to Beijing.
Yeah, of course, but we want you here now that you have come first time, you see. So thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye. Good luck very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Lin Hong. Eu gostaria só de agradecer todo mundo novamente, agradecer a professora Lin Hong pela palestra maravilhosa, agradecer a contribuição das pessoas que mandaram suas perguntas. Muito obrigada pela participação de todos, nossa equipe também, muito obrigada. Eu gostaria de lembrar, mais uma vez, que às 2 horas a gente tem a sessão sobre economia e às 4 horas a sessão sobre meio ambiente. E das 6 às 7 nós temos um horário de networking para os participantes, então todos são muito bem-vindos para a gente bater um papo. E também queria lembrar que nesse mesmo canal de YouTube, todos os eventos online vão ser aqui, e nós também já colocamos 3 sessões que já foram pré-gravadas na semana passada. Uma sobre inovação, uma sobre aspectos econômicos das relações sino-latino-americanas e um sobre RI na China. Então vocês também têm mais materiais aí para a gente continuar assistindo e aprendendo. Muito obrigada a todos, até às 2 horas.